Ali Gilbert, someone that I've been close with for at least 10 years. And we kind of started together as TPI, Titleist Performance Institute E's. We were kind of like part of that cult. Greg Rose and those guys who are just incredibly brilliant. And it's been great because Ali in a way has been like a really close friend, but also kind of like a little sis to me. And to see what she's done in her career so far, even with Perform Better and the Perform Better circuits, but like looking at where her talking points are, and she's really kind of cornering this market that I know there's a lot of questions on. You and I were talking about this. I mean, with male hormones, and we were joking around with a topic. Did you use boners and biceps?
I have. Yes. when you asked what we should be talking about, I said boners and biceps. I mean,
that's what we call this. Can we call this boners and biceps?
I would like to call my book that, so don't take it.
No.
So we can't.
Can we borrow it for?
Can we
borrow it for today?
All right,
yeah.
cool.
We'll just borrow it for today.
Yeah,
borrow it.
I mean, they go together.
Boners and biceps. So, two things that we like. At least I like.
Yeah.
I love.
I love it. But Alec, do me a favor. Give us a little background right now. Like, how did this start for you?
Sure. Well, as he said, we started at TPI through Golf Fitness. So I've been a Golf Fitness trainer for, I would say, roughly 10 years.
Golf 50? Golf Top 50?
Yep, Top 50, Golf Digest. And with Golf Fitness is really, the male-dominated clientele that I work with. So male golfers tend to seek out Golf Fitness training more than women. So that's kind of how I started working with guys. And that turned into nutrition coaching and kind of lifestyle coaching, and realizing that there are no advocates for men's health the way there are for women. And guys need love too, and guys will not go to the doctor unless something's falling off. So it's a real issue that is very highly misunderstood, and that I just became very passionate about, learning everything about men's health and how I can help guys through the training that I do. And I find that like Golf Fitness really means I just want to look good naked.
Right. And Golf Fitness, in all fairness, it's like, I don't want anyone to hear this and say, oh, this is for golfers. Like, we have to turn this off. Like, not even close. Like, my business when I originally started it 15 years ago was about golf and Golf Fitness. And, I pivoted away from that because I gained to learn that Golf Fitness is about creating a better athlete. So Ali, in a way, is here to create a better human being. And as we know, a lot of these golfers, they're stereotyped. They're almost pigeonholed into that. You know what I'm talking about? Khaki pants, golf shirt, a little out of shape. The typical golfer in his 50s who just likes his beers on the course and is, holding a little bit of that tire around the waist. But they want to play more golf. They want to play more golf with optimal energy levels, and they don't want to feel shit like shit.
Yeah.
So
that's
kind of how you went into this.
Do you feel like well, it clearly hasn't happened though. But did you worry that you would be pigeonholed? Like, I know that's why Don pivoted away from it. But did that concern you?
Not really, because I just started gaining more clients that weren't so much golfers, but they were men who happened to play golf. And I think a lot of them, being over 40, high-profile businessmen, didn't want to say, hey, I'm starting to feel less like myself. I'm starting to gain some body fat. I'm noticing man boobs. It's more, I want to hit the ball farther. But the conversation always ends up about body fat and abs and feeling better and all that stuff. So I think they've realized that that's kind of the niche that I've gone to. And the people who know me as specializing in men's health are like, well, wait, how do you marry golf and men's health? And I'm like, oh, they go together. Trust me. There's a way to do it. And even though golfers are kind of on the spectrum of not working out as much, we are, getting closer to getting them lifting harder in the gym and everything. But it's not something that I'm concerned about, because I seem to attract the male clientele anyway, which, is fine.
And is that just because you can communicate with them better? I feel like, we were talking before, and it's easy to talk to you about things. You said no filter.
I'm going to jump in here. I mean, she makes it not only very relatable, but she makes a topic that's almost uncomfortable. And guys have been there. You've gone into female doctors, and you go and you guys start talking about personal stuff. That masculinity can take over at times, and I've spoken to plenty of my clients who are like, oh, I've had a difficult time speaking with a female doctor. She makes it very easy to be able to relate to, and she makes the conversation fun. And I think when she's making it fun and she's allowing men to let their guard down, I think they absorb a lot more information.
What are you talking about specifically, Don?
Ooh. Not with me. I didn't say with me.
No,
So
I'm
that's fine.
just curious. I mean, I have a feeling you're talking about not having a rigid boner.
Yeah, I mean, listen.
I mean, let's get it out.
ED can be a very difficult thing for a lot of guys to speak
Yes.
about.
Oh yeah.
And you know, I think. I mean, how often do you get those
Boners?
questions? Well, she doesn't get any.
Lady
Well, I was going to
boners.
say, I know that one.
Every-
I get them every day, but that's
morning.
healthy, and she'll
I
talk
know.
about that.
So, I mean, you know, the quote unquote report card of women's health is their period every month. For men, they get one every morning, which is in the form of an erection. So, morning wood, as it's termed, men can start to lose the frequency of that or the strength of that as they get older, but it's largely due to stress and other factors, not so much a testosterone factor as, you know, kind of thought, but it does have something to do with it. And when that happens, men start to feel less like men. And that's when kind of the strength in the gym starts to go downhill, and they're very lethargic and they're tired and they're noticing, you know, I'm not as horny as I used to be, you know, something's wrong. And they don't really know how to communicate that because they're really not going to go to the doctor to try to communicate that. And most doctors will take that information and not do any hormonal testing or really dig any farther, because the symptoms of having, you know, erectile dysfunction or low testosterone are very similar to depression. So men will come into the medical community with symptoms of depression and all that stuff, and then get handed an antidepressant, which will actually drive their testosterone down farther, make them less horny and all that stuff. So
And don't a lot of them affect sexual desire too? Like, don't they just take
Yeah.
away like any, you know, inkling to want to have sex?
Big time. So it's kind of, you know, you have to find a medical professional that gets it, which there are some, but they're very hard to find and they cost money. So insurance-based medical care, I mean, that's a whole nother conversation. But so, you know, going back to being able to communicate this, talking to guys openly about this kind of breaks down that awkwardness. And it's not like the first day I'm like, hi, I'm Ali, do you have a boner in the morning? You know, we took a while to get there. So I talk to them about their lifestyle and everything, because if they come to me, they want to get in shape, I need to know what that means to them. And what I say to other trainers, I say, if a guy comes to you and he's, you know, 55 or whatever, 40, and says, I want to get ripped, you have to ask what that means. I say, send me a picture, because my version of ripped is on the cover of your magazine, right? To other guys, that might be maybe like a couple lines in the abs, but like no dad bod, right? So understanding what that is huge. So I've gotten pictures of, like, you know, Braun Strowman. I've gotten like David Beckham. I've gotten, like, you know, guys who seem more normal to the general population. Yeah, because it's like, oh shit, you want to get ripped, then it's going to, you know, require this, that, and the other thing, when it really doesn't. So I ask them all these questions about their lifestyle and their sleep and all these different habits, and then that gets into the, well, you know, do you have any, you know, sexual dysfunction, or are you noticing that maybe morning erections aren't as frequent? And I have to, like, say that, you know, in a way that is diffusing the guard for them. So,
because I mean, have you noticed that there's a lot of lying involved at first? Like, oh, no, I'm good. No, man, fucking hard boners in the morning. And then, like, later on, as they trust you, it's like, yeah, by the way, like, those boners in the morning, gone. Like, you know, as they start to kind of,
So some guys right away, like, knock it down, like, no, I'm good there.
Yeah.
And I don't really dig any farther. That's fine. If you want to focus on the fitness stuff, let's go there.
Sure.
It'll happen eventually, which it usually does. Other guys, they're like, it's more like, how'd you know? And then the floodgates open, and it's like, you came here for one thing, and now we're talking about your digestive issues and bedroom habits and stuff.
But it can really get thrown off pretty quickly, and we see this a lot. And I never really want to go here because it is a much smaller market, but with bodybuilders, and you'll see it as they are in their off season and their carbohydrate levels are up, and their libido is definitely in a much different position than it would be when they start contest dieting or going in that 12 to 16 week prep for Olympia or whatever. And I've spoken to some people I know or my friends, and they're like, yeah, like how's your sex drive? They're like, non-existent. Like, it's the furthest thing from my mind. I've actually seen it on myself years ago when partially one of the reasons why I never do low carb diet but when I had a prep in like 2014, 2015, I carb depleted, which you know me.
I think I worked out with you one of those.
But what were you prepping for?
You were not nice.
What's that?
What were you prepping for?
I was prepping for some shoot. I don't even remember what the shoot.
Yeah.
Some photo shoot. And I remember carb depleting and then loading my carbs back in. It was like the day of, which was obviously bizarre. And I'm happy I went through it because it was like an 8-week prep. It was really hardcore. But I remember in that 8-week period of time, like I had my sex drive. I'm not saying it wasn't there, but it diminished, and that to me scared me. Not because I'm like, oh, I'm a sex drive. No, not about that. But it is evident what diet can do to hormones and how quickly it can affect hormones. And if you look at a lot of the population out there, people just aren't eating good quality foods, and they think they're getting enough carbs or enough protein, and they're not. And then you wonder why the body isn't performing. I don't even want to say optimally. The way it just should be.
Yeah.
You don't have to always talk about optimum. How should the body be performing? And do you see a lot of those people?
Yeah, I think I had posted yesterday on Instagram how fat is the most inflammatory tissue in the body. And a lot of the issues that men deal with when they have body fat to lose comes from the inflammation and the insulin resistance and the estrogenic issues from having too much body fat. And we're in a society where it's like, well, we have drugs for that. Let's go on this drug, on that drug. And you can actually come off a lot of those drugs, like diabetic drugs. Testosterone replacement is actually one of the best drugs for diabetics. And a lot of these people they don't train hard, but they train a lot. And they don't tend to eat to fuel that training. And like you said, if they're not eating enough, their energy is going to dip because they're taught eat less, exercise more.
Right.
They don't understand what exactly they're supposed to do when they slash their calories and then exercise, and all of a sudden they feel like crap because the body will compensate. The metabolism will push harder when you start pushing on it. So your body's like, all right, well, procreation, I don't care about that right now. I just care about keeping you alive. So it's going to send sex drive down. And all hormones are going to downregulate except for the stress hormones like cortisol and all that. So a lot of those people I see, and it's number one, they're not sleeping, but that's so not sexy to sell. It's really hard to get people to do. A lot of people have the hero mentality of, well, I don't need to sleep. I'll sleep when I'm dead. And I'm like, great, that'll probably happen sooner than you think.
Yeah.
So a lot of people really have to do less, but when they do train, focus on the intensity of it, but not have to do it every single day.
Caloric restrictions. I mean, one of my most commonly asked questions, I mean, daily, I'll have people message me and say, I'm in a caloric deficit. I'm trying to put myself in a caloric deficit. And obviously, I know nothing about this individual. I mean, they're messaging me, they're DMing me, but I like to look at all the questions coming in. When your body is continually in a caloric deficit and you're continually starving yourself of calories, can you talk about that right now? I take a different approach. I believe let's get the body to turn into more of a fat burning furnace. Food is medicine. Feed the body once in a while. If you have to do a cut because it's your job, do the cut. But get the body strong and lean off of food and exercise and sleep. Talk to us about deficits and what that can do to hormones.
That actually, my talk at Perform Better, I'm doing a lot on that because it is so highly misunderstood, and there are a lot of trainers trying to do nutrition coaching, and the people that come to us, general population and coaches as well. Like we are the ones that mess ourselves up the most, actually, and we need other coaches to help us, but. Calorie restriction, it does work, but it can't work forever. And you can't live in a deficit. And there's actually a great study that I'm going to bring up called the Matador study that was done in 2017, where they took two groups. One of them did a continuous calorie restriction for 16 weeks. And then the other group did calorie restriction for 30 weeks, but they did 2 weeks calorie restriction, deficit, 2 weeks maintenance, 2 weeks deficit, 2 weeks maintenance. Both groups lost weight. Both groups, the intermittent, so the 30-week group lost less lean body mass, but when the weight regain came, which it will, it was less in the group that did the intermittent dieting. And
I can believe that.
You can read the whole study, and yes, part of that can have to do with compliancy. But a big part of that was taking that diet break and giving the body a break kind of tricks your metabolism because, anybody who diets, it's going to take 4 days to start compensatory issues going on. Your hunger, your energy, your cravings, your sleep, something's going to give. And diet plans don't work specifically for that reason, where someone can do it for 3-4 days, but then all of a sudden cravings hit, they binge. So giving somebody a diet break or bringing them to maintenance tells the metabolism, okay, we're not starving anymore. It's okay to continually operate at a higher level and then shift into a deficit again. And there's these different toggles that you can take where the mainstream is taught eat less, exercise more. And that's calorie deficit, whether you're creating that through food or creating that through exercise. That will work until it doesn't. Then if somebody's on vacation or they're working and they're away and they don't have a lot of time to exercise, you can eat less and exercise less. And this is what Europeans do. So they walk around a lot. Obviously, movement is different from exercise, but they're not in this severe deficit with exercise, which really only accounts for 5% of your metabolism anyway. So Parisians, Europeans, they're lean. They walk around a lot. They don't really eat a lot, and they kind of eat whatever they want. Then you can toggle into eating more and exercising more, and that's really the athlete's approach. So think about an athlete and think about how everyone wants to look like one, but nobody wants to eat like one. Mm-hmm. And if you asked, Michael Phelps, hey, did you diet your way through Olympic training? Like, how? It's crazy to ask him that. But everyone wants to look like him, but they don't want to eat like him, and they'll try and train like him. So it's really any of those toggles that you can put the metabolism into will get you the best results over time.
Right.
But why do you think that we've gotten to that point where we think that we have to eat less? Is it just because we've been tricked via marketing? Like, do you think that that's what's happened?
I think marketing, and I think that people do these 8-week transformations over and over and over and lose the same weight and then gain it back and then do it again, where they're not taught sustainability.
Right.
So I always tell people my coaching programs are 3 months or 12 months. And 3 months is short because you're just getting to know somebody's physiology. And we all know as professionals how to get people to lose weight, but we have failed in getting them to keep it off and to find maintenance and to find a way that they can do this the rest of their life. So you're going to eat the rest of your life. You might as well do it in a way that you can do the rest of your life.
I've never offered a low carb or a restricted diet for transformation. So, I have my playbook app. I offer my nutrition plan up there. I don't even measure macros. I go by palm size, fist size, thumb size. And what I try and instill in everyone is like, listen, you want to do a detox? Fine. We're going to give you a small 6-week plan. I really don't want any alcohol. Yeah. I don't want any cheats. I want your body to get adapted to burning good, clean food. We will get you back to having some drinks. We will get you back to having some alcohol. I understand that, but you're coming from such a bad place that we just need a little bit of a break.
Yeah.
And that's and I get it. It's happened to all of us. You come back from a trip, you had a good time, and you're like, got to start the new workout, got to start a new diet, food prep. You get everything lined up. It's like mentally it puts you in a good spot. I understand how people want to get into a good spot. I just, I think, individuals are hearing, I had a cut for this film. I had a cut for the cover of this magazine. Cut. And they're like, well, I can just cut and look like that all year long. And the reality is the majority of the guys going on these covers, they don't look that way ever. There's lighting. They're going through a 6 to 8 week cut normally.
It's angles.
It's angles. Yeah. They're water depleting. They're then filling out the day of, and then they're holding up a picture of this guy who looks completely dry and he looks like a monster. And they're like, I want to look like that. They're like, okay, you can look like that for a couple of days, a week.
Exactly.
Sadiq Hatzovic walks around. He's a monster, but he looks very different from how he looks on a cover, or if he looks on the Olympia stage, than he does throughout the year. He still looks fantastic. He's still a big guy, but they're not the same people. Is what I'm trying to say, and that is the part that bothers me, is that the majority of the readers out there think, well, that's how he's walking around all year long, and he's not.
Well, it's like the story you told about Ryan Reynolds, how he, the first Deadpool, when he had to be shirtless, and he had anxiety over it, but he knew he had to peak for that scene. So he
No, that wasn't Deadpool. That was that was like 10 years ago. Green Lantern, we put a lot of training into that, and he had literally like a 3-second scene. And
nobody watched that movie.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think he'll say the same thing. But he looked unbelievable. But the thing I was proud of him about, and he doesn't mind me discussing this, is that he took a very healthy approach the first Deadpool, and he just said, listen, I'm going to get carbs. I'm going to make sure my energy levels are optimal. And he just started noticing things in his body. He just started noticing like a fullness in his body and an energy that he had that he didn't have in the other movies. And his sleep improved. And he's like, oh my God, I'm getting stronger, and all these positive things. And like at the end of the day, like, why? Why are you going to go through this crazy cut and depletion for what? To look a 0.5% better that most people aren't really going to notice anyway.
Right.
And if you screw up the timing, you know what goes into bodybuilding, like Zach. Like
it's nuts.
You know, like these guys will prep 16 weeks, 20 weeks, and out of nowhere get on the stage, and you've heard it a million times. The next day they're like, my timing was off. If I just looked that day, how I looked 3 days after, I would have won the whole thing. And you're like, but you didn't. But they have to do that. No one else on the planet has to do that.
No, but they want that look, and when you explain to them what that requires, and if you ask any of those guys how they feel on that day, they don't feel good.
No.
They don't feel good.
No, and if you try to talk to them, like they're in a brain fog, they're grumpy, they're hungry, they're tired, and it's it's work. It's not like it's a good place to be. And then once they're done and they can eat, things change instantly, and they're different people. And a lot of times they look better,
Right.
like because they have some carbs in them, and they start to they're not as dry. But on stage, they want everything to pop, and that's when they have to peak, for those judges. But as you said, for regular people, like we're not going to know the difference. Like we're not going to know like the difference between that and like a few hours after. So it is different.
That's why I say. So you say shredded. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Show me a photo.
And that was a good. I'm glad you let off with that, because shredded for someone could be 4 weeks or it could be 4 years.
Yeah. I mean, for me and Don, we're like, okay, veins on our abs, thick skin lean. That's great.
Yeah.
For somebody else, it's like.
No, it's a great. I'm stealing that line, by the way. T levels can be recuperated pretty quickly, though, right? I mean, I've read some studies saying that, diminish pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So 3 or 4 nights in a row of poor sleep, you can start seeing a decrease. What is the exact stats on that?
It's 15 to 20% decrease after 5 hours or less of sleep.
I'm so fucked.
And that's why, men who have a baby, the first year, their testosterone levels plummet from lack of sleep, but also because of some evolutionary process, like don't go procreate,
Yeah, I have a 6-month-old, and
your face says it all.
Yeah, it's like all like the warning signs you're talking about. Like as you say them, it's like. So.
But also men and women, we are walking around every day with this environmental onslaught against us.
Great.
With the plastics and everything. So we really can't win this war against our endocrine system,
No, but we can manage it, and we can do everything in our favor to help give ourselves the best opportunity.
But this is what I mean. Like, what is it that we can do to put ourselves in this position or avoid, really?
Well, I used to make fun of Don. I always say this in my talks. He would walk around with a glass bottle of water. I'd be like, what a dork. Like, that's so weird. He's such a tree hugger. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, you're just like, wow, this is actually reality. Switching from plastic to glass is huge.
Huge.
It's amazing what is in the water. So now they're realizing how bad birth control is for women. So all the estrogens and hormones in birth control, when women use the restroom, where do you think they go? In our water system. You can't filter that out with a Brita. And Florida is probably the worst right now with their water. So estrogen in the water, Roundup, atrazine, like the pesticides and herbicides, the amount of estrogens in the environment from those things alone, it's in phthalates, it's in parabens, in our beauty products. That's why there's such a huge movement now for phthalate-free beauty products, paraben-free, sulfate-free. CVS is taking all the beauty products that are going to be endocrine disrupting to us off their shelves. We're really up against a lot when we're just living, and it's tough because the little things that you can do, switching to glass, using a water filter and then putting it in stainless steel or glass, not taking a water bottle that's been sitting in your car hot and letting all that plastic and xenoestrogen seep into it.
Yeah, so
it's horrible.
Before we jump into estrogen, we were just discussing testosterone and sleep, and it makes me want to segue. We're not coming off topic, but discussing alcohol consumption and T levels, because if you're consuming, so most people will come to me and say, "What's the best drink?" And I'm like, it's almost the wrong question, because
right.
in a way, I mean, you can answer it, but my answer personally is, I don't really drink enough to where it matters. Like, if I'm going to drink every few weeks or whatever, and I want a few beers, I'm going to go have a few beers. Like, I'm more concerned about what it's doing to me hormonally. I'm more concerned with how it's affecting my sleep. If I have 2 drinks and I go to sleep, 2 drinks hours before, I'm waking up at 2, 3 in the morning, my heart is racing. Mm-hmm. Something is off. So if it's affecting your sleep like that, should we really be worried whether it's gluten-free or not, or how much sugar or calories are in it, or are we really more worried about the alcohol and what it's doing to ourselves hormonally?
That's a big question, a lot of people. And they're like, yeah, but it helps me sleep. I'm like, no, it helps you pass out.
Yes.
Right.
It does not help you sleep.
Thank you.
And tracking sleep is one way that you can validate the fact that it's not helping you. But waking up at 2 or 3 in the morning with or with alcohol is not normal. And so your heart racing and then the sweating and, having to pee, that's a response, that's a stress response. Cortisol gets jacked up because you're drinking at night, and basically whatever you drink gets preferentially metabolized by your body. It says, oh, energy, 7 calories per gram, boom. I'm taking this first because it's the easiest to metabolize. And then anything you eat with that is kind of like, all right, you stay on hold, burger and fries. I'm not going to use you yet. So I might store you as fat, probably, because I'm going to take all this alcohol and use that. And so when you explain it that way to clients, they're kind of like, oh, okay, so I shouldn't eat. And it's like, no. But, are there tricks? Like, a lot of us don't eat a lot when we're drinking if we're going to drink. But this is not every night. So if you're somebody who needs that to relax, I highly encourage people find other ways to relax and try to get that out of your habitual routine at night, because it's not helping you. Alcohol is a toxin. So there's a reason why the body hyper-metabolizes it and wants to get it out as quick as possible.
Fill everyone in on what are some of the detriments to this. I mean, we all know alcohol, well, yeah, you can put body fat on. It goes way beyond that. Okay,
so it ramps up aromatase, which is an enzyme that converts testosterone to estrogen in the body. So that alone, the term beer belly, like, that comes from because the hops in beer has phytoestrogens in it, and then it ramps up the activity. So the more body fat a guy has, the more estrogen he's going to have, the more aromatase activity. So just that alone, and your body detoxifies estrogen through the liver. So if you're impeding your liver with increased alcohol via any toxic substance, then it's really not helping your ability to detoxify estrogens out. So then it becomes more carcinogenic.
What about the aging process?
It does not help that at all.
It doesn't. Exactly. So I think people are asking a lot of the wrong questions. They're asking, well, from a body fat standpoint, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, we want to pay attention to that. But I'm not worried. If you're someone who's going to go out every once in a while and have a few beers, like, live your life. Like, it's just my opinion. Like, I enjoy having a few beers and I can get myself back on track. But don't think for a second, if I go have 2 or 3 beers, that I am not feeling off or different. Mm-hmm. That during my night's sleep, the next day I wake up, brain clarity isn't there, energy level isn't there. I've lost rest, and then it takes a while for you to get that back. So if you do that once in a while and I can feel the effects on that, imagine doing that 2-3 days a week like the general population's doing. I mean,
we know what we're getting into. We have a routine after we drink of hydration and all that stuff. These people, or most people, are like, oh, I just drank, I need to beat myself up in the gym the next day. Which is the worst thing you can do on disrupted sleep, dehydrated body.
And then they want to do it fasted now because everyone's doing intermittent fasting and all this stuff to, so it's like it's throwing more and more into the fire.
Yeah, it's so as you said, they're looking at the wrong things, they're asking the wrong questions, and it's like they're worried about the aesthetics rather than what it is internally that this is all doing.
Which will affect your aesthetics in the long run.
Right. But is it also going to make you more inflamed? And
yeah, it can.
And like, I think that's something that people don't really understand. That's a big problem for them, like inflammation. And like, can you explain why it's a problem?
Because people don't feel it. you know, you can say you feel inflamed, and that might mean you feel like water retention or something. But inflammation can occur at the cellular level. And sometimes with clients, even I can preach the sleep thing to them. I can preach the alcohol thing. Until they see the numbers on paper from lab work, they don't really care. Right. And then when they see that, they're like, oh, okay, I'm going to die if I keep this up, you know? Then they realize that, yeah, this is important. Because if your inflammatory markers are high with any cardiovascular stuff, that's just a recipe for some sort of event to happen quicker than later. Say
you don't have the ability to see the numbers, or you don't have that type of access. The way you can really feel it is by removing specific things from your diet, and getting on a nutrition plan that, you know, people call it this anti-inflammatory diets. But when the one benefit I have seen out of dieting is that when you're removing wheat and gluten, and when you're removing all dairy products, and you're removing, you know, specific grains, and you're removing alcohol, and you're removing all this stuff, yeah, man, like I'm hard on my body. I used to have a little tendonitis in the knee or the elbow, or some contact injuries, or specific things that you might feel here and there. And out of nowhere, you're walking around 6 weeks in, you're like, I don't feel anything. You're like, wow, I actually feel like maybe, you know, the energy's okay because the carbs are still in there, but they're from good, clean carbs. But I have rid my body the last 4 to 6. When you rid your body the last 4 to 6 weeks of things that cause inflammation, you're actually like, if you have arthritis, if you're in your 50s, 60s, and you have arthritis, try that. Try that to minimize, like, rather than taking Advil or something that's going to ruin it.
It's too easy, though.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. But it's also very difficult. You know, for you throw Norma Tech boots on, and within 30 minutes, you're like, oh, wow, my body feels great. Like, that's a very quick, easy, quantifiable thing. Yeah. Doing something like dieting is, all right, like, this takes time.
It takes time. And people, they want a pill, they want magic, you know. I get a lot of people, well, I should do a food allergy test. I'm like, no, those are a waste of money, because they just end up in an elimination protocol anyway.
Yeah, you could just do an elimination diet. Yeah. Right? Can you explain that a little bit? Can we talk about that? This is a good takeaway for the people following.
A lot of the simplistic way to explain it is food allergy test. There's all these different labs that will do it, and it basically tells you what type of immune response your body has, not like an allergy like anaphylactic shock or something, but more of cellularly what happens. So it could be anything. People would be like, all right, pinto beans, romaine lettuce, and then they freak out and they see, oh my God, I'm allergic to everything. I can't eat anything.
Right.
You're really honestly going to show up. The highest ones show up at the stuff that you eat the most anyway. And dairy and gluten and wheat usually shows up in most people's. So then it's coming down to the protocol that they send you from the lab that says, all right, rotate this, add this, take out this. It's the same thing that we can do, as Don said, with some sort of anti-inflammatory template, you know, if you will. It really isn't that hard. It's just not complicated enough for somebody to buy into it, because they want something that's like specific, and, you know, it has to be way easier or way more complicated than you're telling me. And it's like, nah, dude, like, sleep and, you know, eat some carbs. Right. Like, if, you're not sleeping? Okay, have some rice at night. Oh my God. You can't have rice at night? The insulin fairy comes. Like, no, it's okay. Actually, we'll sleep the whole night. Right. You know, so
I never rid carbs from my diet. Never, like, at night. Never.
People are so afraid of them.
Never. Like, I'll never do. Actually, it messes with my sleep if I start removing carbs in the evening. I sleep better with carbs in the evening, and I wake up with more energy.
Yeah, but that's because you've taken the time to learn how your body works. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, but I think people would be shocked that, you know, I'm not this unusual species here. Like, this is like
you are.
But you also are, because you've taken that time.
I have taken the time, but people need to trust people that are doing things the healthy and the right way, and they need to start saying, all right, you know what, I'm not looking for a quick fix here.
But
like,
I think that's it.
You know, like, stop looking for a quick fix, and let's invest in something called time.
But your whole thing is sustainability, right? It's something that you can maintain. And that's what Ali's saying. A lot of people are like, man, I'm hurt. Give me something that can take care of it immediately, rather than find the root of it and take care of that, which might take a little bit longer and have some patience. And look, and I get it. Like, I understand that. But what you're saying is sometimes you just got to put in the work.
It's a big education process, because when people think carbs, tell them eat more carbs. That means so many things to them. Like, to me and Don, it's like, all right, sweet potatoes, rice, you know, like squash. But to other people, their definition, I even realize when I explain stuff to clients, I'm like, oh wow, they think Nutella is a nut butter. Like you really have to re-explain stuff, in very simple ways. And it's like, no, I mean, it's okay to eat white rice. Brown rice actually might irritate your gut. And granted, there are some people who aren't ready for carbohydrates. Like they aren't aerobically fit enough sometimes, or their body just doesn't utilize them. And then it's a slow process of introducing them again. Or women who've been, I'm going to go keto, and then, their body doesn't know how to handle carbohydrates. You can't give them 200 grams right away. It's a slower process with some people. And, pre-diabetics and stuff like that. People are just eating a lot of junk. Once they get that junk out of their system, and they feel different. Oh my gosh.
Magic happens.
Night and day.
But you preach food quality all the time.
I preach food quality all the time. I also, preach not restricting the body.
Right.
I do believe and understand that timing's a key. And if I have two different individuals coming in and I might say, all right, you're like Ali said earlier, you're not used to carbohydrates. Your body can't really handle so much of them. So we might try it around workout time and get your body absorbing it a little bit. And then we might try that for 2 weeks and just try doing the same thing every day and just getting an understanding where there's not so much volatility day in and day out. And then 2 weeks later, we'll see, did we gain weight? Did we lose weight? How's our energy level? At that point, I feel like you can start making some adjustments. So maybe it's bumping up 20 grams of carbs a day every week. Not every day, but Monday, and doing that for the whole week and seeing how your body feels. And wow, I'm starting to get a little more hungry. Let's take it up another 20 grams.
That's the best.
That's the best, because then you're like, wow, Don, I was 5 days ago, I was full and I trust the process, and now my body's hungry. And I mean, probably one of the coolest stories that I have with myself in eating, it was when I went on my honeymoon. Because I went from, and this was 13 years ago, when I knew nowhere near what I know now, but I was still a believer in carbohydrates. And what happens when I went away, I went from eating at the time 6-7 meals a day, because you remember how we do them as bodybuilders back then. We thought we were.
That's the rule.
But you go from eating 6 to 7 times a day or 8 times a day to eating 3 meals a day. Now my 3 meals went from being my meals went from being very clean to eating pizza, pasta, gelato, and drinking wine with every meal, and I lost almost, I think, 10 pounds. People are like, how's that possible? I hate you. I'm like, no, it was for 10 days.
Yeah.
Remember that. It was for 10 days. Because if I kept that up over time, was I bloated? Was I inflamed? Yes, but I lost weight. And it was because I was consuming I was in a caloric deficit. It wasn't the right calories, but I was in a deficit. But I didn't look good. And then I got back into detoxing, which was getting back to those 6 to 8 meals a day, and then that's when I think everything cleaned up. At the time.
That's doing eat more, exercise less, on a holiday. That's why now the big thing is enjoy yourself in your holiday, because especially if you are strict or you're in a deficit, your body's probably begging you to overeat.
Yeah, this is great.
And as long as you explain to clients, if they go on carbs, or if they're increasing carbs, or if they indulge on the holiday, the scale will go up. And it's just water.
Yeah.
That's huge.
You're not gaining body fat in 7 days, right?
Yes. And changing it to kilos. If you change it to kilos, number one, they're not going to do the math. Number two, it's a lot different if you're, gaining or losing 500 grams a week.
Oh, that's interesting.
So
I never thought of that.
I wouldn't be able to do the math with the kilos.
Oh, the kilos, yeah,
no,
kilos. I'm not smart enough either.
No, it would just...
But it's a big process, and that's why I think everybody really just wants to belong to something, and that's why we have the carnivore diet and the keto diet and all these different camps. And then the 90s, we had the 90s low fat and the Snackwells and the Atkins and South Beach, which are all just versions of keto. So everyone just wants to belong to something, and that's why group training and group fitness and CrossFits do so well, because you're a part of something. So if you say I'm keto, okay, cool, people identify with that. And I will say, even though we may roll our eyes sometimes, when you find products in stores that are keto this, or at least you know what you're getting into, okay, this is going to be a higher fat, lower protein product. Cool. All right, paleo cookie. Okay, I know what that is. Paleo, if you want to live paleo, true paleo, you can grab your spear, go into the woods. That's a whole different thing. But, at least having the keto section, at Vitamin Shop, all right, you know what that is. So whatever. But people just really want to belong to something. And I think that's where that identification of a certain diet camp comes for them, where they just really need the basics of education.
I can't even answer. Like, if someone asked me right now, what type of diet are you on? Or like, Ali, what type of diet are you on?
Who, me personally?
Yeah, you personally.
I'm on a normal diet.
Right, exactly. So it's like, I'm
on
on a food quality diet. Like, I'm on a, they're like, well, how would you break it down? I'm like, I don't know, protein, carbs, fats.
It's tough, like, when you post pictures
eating.
of your meals, like, you know, I tend to be lower carb because I feel best on that.
And that's
and then
fine.
people message me like, oh, you're low carb. And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
First of all, I'm not doing, like, you know, very high glycolytic work like CrossFit 4-6 times a week.
Right.
You need carbs for that.
Right.
Absolutely, you need carbs. You know, I mean, when CrossFit and Paleo had a baby, and then everyone ended up with, you know, adrenal issues and over-exercise issues and stuff like that, it was a problem. You know, but you need carbs for those types of sports.
Right.
So.
It cracks me up. Everyone wants to know, you know, their macro breakdown, but yet they're going and partying so much on the weekend or doing something. I'm like, guys, like, just like what you're asking right now may not be a result that your macros aren't dialed in. People can do a lot with their bodies if they just get rid of a lot of the crap. They just don't want.
They just don't want to.
But I think they need to accept that. Like the woman I asked, the 2 bottles of wine story. Like, should really like all right, no, like, yeah, 2 bottles of wine a week, is that going to affect your physique? Yes, it is. She didn't want to hear it. She was like, really? Are you sure? I'm like, yeah, I'm sure. If you eliminate where you are right now, if you eliminate those 2 bottles a week, like, you probably, without changing anything else, you probably will see some improvement. Like,
100%.
She don't want to hear
it.
Yeah, she don't want to hear it, and she's not going to test it either because it's not the answer that she wanted.
No.
Just take testosterone, fix it.
Can I ask you, can I go back to TRT for a second?
Yeah, let's do
Read my
it.
mind.
So, for one thing, I don't think I got a chance to follow up. Is it dangerous? Because I feel like there's a lot of misconceptions that it's something that's dangerous.
No. So if it's medically monitored at a therapeutic dose, no.
Okay.
There's wild claims out there on, you know, it causing cancer, causing prostate cancer, causing heart issues. That is only at super physiological doses. Could there be some cardiovascular issues? Most of the cardiovascular issues come from blocking estrogen, and the safety of it is impeccable. It's amazing. And there's some progressive doctors now who are using super physiological doses to treat prostate cancer. It's awesome.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it's hugely on the other side of what most doctors think. And I have a lot of clients that, you know, like in a consult, they'll say, I want to get lab work. I'm going to see my GP next week. Can you tell me what I should get? And I always know how this goes. I have it on copy paste. Send them the list of stuff. I say, you'll come back with maybe an eighth of this, and he'll question why. You know, most of the time the doctor's like, oh, you don't need to do that, or you look great. Why would you want to, you know, test testosterone? And if they bring up TRT, oh, that causes cancer, you know, oh, da-da-da. So it's very, very highly demonized. So it is very safe. And it's, you know, the side effects are better sleep, better longevity, you know, increased strength in the gym, more vitality, you know, feeling like you're 25 again. Though there are some 25-year-olds with very low T levels right now, but...
So the process would be you go get your testosterone tested, and if it comes back extremely low, then you would go to another doc. Like, how can you walk me through the process?
Yeah. So I tell people, you know, your GP can only do so much. I would go to somebody who specializes in hormone replacement therapy, who has clients or patients that they manage, because someone who doesn't specify with that, they're not really going to understand it as well, because there's multiple delivery systems of testosterone. So also saying, you know,
is one of those better than the other? Like,
yes.
So it's like,
I'll get into that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So the ranges are massive. And LabCorp actually in 2017 dropped the range almost 100 points. It was like 300 something to 1197, and now it's like 264 to 916, which is huge. And not only is that an average of all sick and fat and overweight people in America, but, you know, if you're 35 years old and you're 265, a doctor could very well say, well, you're in range. But you have all these symptoms and you feel like crap. That's a major problem, because at 35 years old, you shouldn't have test levels that low. And most of the clients that I have who are 30 plus, they come in with 300 and 400 at most. Very rare does somebody come in with very high test levels these days, naturally. So it's a huge misunderstanding, and you can have all the symptoms in the world and feel horrible. And yes, getting your life together, lifestyle-wise, that could bump it up 100 or 200 points, maybe. But to get the effect where you'll actually feel better and get your life back, especially as you get older, is going to require a testosterone replacement.
What happens though at a young age if you do have? Well, all right. Let's say this. Let's say you're not on. You don't have low testosterone.
Mm-hmm.
By getting on testosterone at a young age, does your body stop producing it? Is that a myth, or can that be adjusted by kind of cycling on and off of it? Because it bothers me with a lot of young kids who ask me that. I've never, and you know me for a long time. I mean, I'm 42. I've never taken testosterone.
Yeah, I've seen your lab work.
Right. I mean, I've never had a need for it. And if I had a need for it, I got to be honest, I would be really frightened, because I buried one of my best friends back in 2010, and his T levels were north of 3,000 when we found him, dead in his apartment, and that was just to see my friend for probably 5 years before that have open heart surgery at 38 years old. I was 10 years younger than him. So you see a guy at that age have open heart surgery at that age, and you see his energy going to crap, and you'd see him getting off of it, but would have to get back on it because he feels too awful. You almost knew it was going to happen.
Right.
But I'm saying to myself, man, like, at what age is the point where you should say, all right, you know what, I want to maybe live the rest of my life. Like 60, I still feel is young, because if you're going to get on it, where are you get on it for 10 years? Like then you're 70. Like 70 is still kind of young. Like what if that kind of exasperates something else or another issue, or causes you? I know I'm rambling, but you follow what I'm getting at? Like what's the right time?
It's finding a medical professional that understands it, but also when is the right time is yes, to answer the first question, it will suppress endogenous production, but also it will suppress sperm production. So with guys who are younger, they tend to be put on Clomid, which is like a women's fertility drug, which basically is like an estrogen modulator that can help increase test levels. But if they go on injectables or another form and they come off of it, then yes, there's a way that they can reclaim testosterone levels. However, they're not going to feel as good as they were on the testosterone. Generally, they'll go through this with their doctor. Where are you done having kids? Are you going to have kids? Do you care about having kids? Because men on testosterone replacement can still be fertile, but they'd have to go on other things like HCG or Clomid concurrently. So when they're younger, it's more of like, all right, what are you doing that is causing this? And a lot of it is like the environmental stuff and the artificial light. That is a big one. Big one. The blue light blocking glasses, as fad-like as they seem, those work.
They now have screen protectors that block blue light. Do those work, or probably not as well?
I don't know how well, but I know the glasses, they make them for daytime and for nighttime. So if you're in front of a computer all day, that's basically like you're staring into the sun all day. Artificial light is different than blue light. So blue light itself is not harmful, but exposure to blue light at night, that's when we don't want it, because that affects our production of melatonin.
How much blue light at night? Like if you check your phone for 15 seconds because you had exposure to that blue light, or does it have to be for a certain period of time?
I would say like intermittently, because I mean, like checking my phone once, like no one really does that, right? Or then puts it away the rest of the night, unless they're very, very like structured.
Right.
Some people have a curfew where they're like, I'm done with the phone, but then you have the TV. Or you have lights in the house.
Or your iPad or something else that's going to emit it. Yeah.
Yeah, so if you're able to filter it, your body, to produce melatonin, it needs darkness. And it just doesn't need just the nighttime, but it needs complete darkness. And that's why, blocking out any light or street light or anything. So if we don't have high levels of melatonin, we can't sleep as well. And that's where the circadian rhythm and everything gets screwed up. And that's why sleep is so important. But you basically, anytime you stare into a device for a period of time, it's like you're staring in the sun. Now, we wear sunglasses when we look outside at the sun, but we don't wear anything when we look at our device. So it's pretty much the same thing.
I could feel that now. I could feel at times when I pick up my phone and I stare at my phone for a few minutes, I feel worse after I put it down. I'm like, wow. And then when I'm away from it for a while, I almost feel more energetic a little bit. But one could be because of posture, but I do feel like it's doing something to my eyes. It's definitely screwing with my vision.
It helps the strain, the eye strain, definitely, if anything. It's not like you put on the glasses and all of a sudden you're like, all right, I'm just going to pass out.
Right.
But some people find it easier to fall asleep. And you want to wear it up until you lie in bed, and then you take them off with all the lights off. So it's something that actually has helped, because that artificial light, your body thinks, oh, time to get up. And it's constantly being bombarded with the stress response, which we don't want.
Right.
And that's what is disruptive to the sleep, and that's what will shoot testosterone levels down, growth hormone levels down, so it's crazy, but that's like what we're bombarded with.
Interesting.
Cool. I just have a couple more questions about this, if that's cool.
Yeah.
So you go in, doctor says, you're a candidate, and then you have to decide which method works best for you, right? So there's patches, there's injections, there's, I don't know, gummies.
There's creams, there's pellets, they're testing nasal sprays, there's so many things. So the best form is injectable and compounded scrotal creams that have been found to actually be pretty good. And those are applied on the scrotum, I think, about twice a day.
Just to wear a glove, or is it just like
no, wash your hands, because then it can get transferred. So injectable, you're getting the pure form of the hormone. There's different esters if you want to go into that, but basically you can't patent a hormone, so doctors can't really make money off injectables. However, you find alternate delivery systems via pellets or other gels and stuff. Like, you notice we don't hear about androgel anymore and all those things. And you can charge whatever. I know a doctor in town who charges $800 for pellets. It takes 15 minutes for him to put it in. The problem with those is, your metabolism of that might be way different than Don's.
Right.
But if you get the same dosage, what does that mean? That we don't have to adjust it?
Yeah,
So the only way to adjust it is you go back in, it's invasive, and then you can't really control the release. So it's not optimal. Whereas with injectables now, in the way of antiquated methods, is more doctors are leaning towards multiple injections a week, spreading it out so the release pattern is more like your endogenous release pattern versus the once every 10 days or once every 2 weeks it used to be, which would skyrocket the estrogen, and then you'd feel great for like 2 days, and then all of a sudden you kind of crash. Where now people are doing it sub-Q or still intramuscularly, 2 to 3 times a week. So.
Okay, and how much would that cost, like a ballpark? Because it's probably going to change depending on whether you have insurance or whether
everyone's insurance is different. So it could be like $60 to $100 a month for a vial.
I mean, that's pretty reasonable to feel good. You know what I mean?
I tell people, like, investing in your health, be prepared to spend at least like $2,500 to $3,000 a year in being optimal.
Right.
Because there is no optimal care. It's all sick care with doctors. So to be optimized, you really have to put your money into that. So we can't rely on insurance. Because again, then you're limited to what the testosterone range is per the insurance. And you actually come up as hypogonadal and all this stuff where, you know what, you're better off finding a doctor who gets it, pay a little bit extra, whether they're concierge or not. And then, be in a good place, because you're going to end up with a slew of medical bills anyway if you're just kind of all over the place.
Right.
So then once you start, you got to keep going, right? Or else you're going to plummet back to your baseline, right?
Right, yeah.
So
it's a for life thing.
Right. And I guess when you say being optimal, like that just means that picture that you said you want somebody to send you. I guess in this case, it would be the picture they may have in their mind of what they want to be. That would be considered optimal, correct?
Right, and optimal meaning that arbitrary range that they have. There's no number that a guy needs to shoot for. I tell people, don't chase the paper. So if your test level comes up at 500 and you still feel really like, you're a big guy, you don't feel that great, maybe you need some more, and then you feel amazing at 800. There's some guys that don't feel so good at 800. They feel better at, 600. So it's different for everybody. But optimal, in quotations, is probably 500 or above for most guys.
Got it.
Yeah. Anything below that, they're likely to be symptomatic.
When you say something's for life, to me, that's tough. And I just don't believe, and I'm not a doctor here, so I'm going to say something that's going to piss someone off. I just don't feel like most people are exhausting specific avenues before they're deciding to go back on it. And let me ask you a question. If you don't go back on it, what does that mean? Like if you're walking around, you're feeling people. Why would people come look into this? Because they're feeling like complete crap. Let's put aside the optimization of muscle building and being an animal in the gym and what some guys are looking for. Yeah. Someone is not living a good quality of life and they feel like complete shit all the time. That's a problem, right? But are they coming in? Are they now removing blue light? Are they now looking into their sleep? Are they now looking into the amount of alcohol that they're drinking? Are they now looking into the air, their stress levels, their food quality, plastics? You start removing maybe the toothpaste they're using, the deodorant that they're using with aluminum. You start, like I just named 10 things right there. You start removing or you start fixing 80% of each one of these things, you should start to see an improvement.
Oh, yeah.
Right. You should. But how many people really want to do that? So to say I'm going to get on something at 50 years old for life, I mean, damn, that's like, put aside the cost. I'm just afraid, like, what happens when you get off it? Are you going to end up like my buddy Tommy? Are you going to suddenly need more of it because your body just stops producing it and you were used to putting in this amount into a body that produced this amount, but now your body's producing less, so you need more of this. Does that make sense? So that's where I'm just nervous over it. I understand where the research is going, and I know for a fact at one point in this world, you are going to go to a doctor, and he's going to be able to prescribe this stuff to you, and you are going to know that you're living a better quality of life, and this is the amount. And maybe some doctors are doing it, and they probably are. I don't know. It just scares me. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
there's clinics like I mean, there's one guy. Friend of mine said, they gave me testosterone and Arimidex in the same syringe, and I was like, what? Like, these guys are walking out with, like, a starter pack of, like, testosterone, HCG, and Arimidex. And they don't even, like, that. No, you want to be started on just testosterone. See how your body does on that.
What I'm saying is everyone has low T now. Like, everyone, they're like, oh, no, I'm on it, but I have low T. I'm like, bullshit, you don't have low T. Like, like, you're a freaking monster. You're a 25-year-old guy. You didn't have low T. You don't have low T now. Like, you said you felt great. Like, you're opening a can of worms right now. You're 25 getting on this stuff. Like, there is, like...
25 is a little early. I mean,
come on, man. I mean,
going Clomid, Jumpstart, that can kind of reset stuff, and then get your lifestyle together.
Open heart surgery at 38 years
old. Well, that's what I'm saying.
You see that, and then you're suddenly saying, "Wow, let me rethink this a little
bit." With that experience, who could blame you for being,
I don't blame you because there are, a lot of the reason why they pulled androgel. I almost said astrogel. Androgel. Was because the concentration of testosterone was not high enough, so it wasn't really benefiting guys. So men are at a very high risk of cardiovascular events with a testosterone deficiency now. And the mismanagement of estrogen and having higher estrogen from all the environmental stuff is very risky for them. So being on a supplement that doesn't really give you the balance that they needed, there was all those claims that it caused CVs and all that. That was from androgel, and they brought test levels to like 300. Woohoo!
But for how old of an individual?
For guys over 60 years old.
Well, that would be a good range.
That's a risk anyway. So a guy 65 or older with heart issues. Yeah. Like, this is the study. This is the problem with a lot of these studies claiming that it's bad and all that stuff. So. The argument with that is that men who do go on it at a certain age that it would seem, I guess, socially acceptable. They feel so good, they don't really have a reason to want to come off.
It really is. I mean, at the end of the day, you give an individual optimal energy levels. A lot gets cleaned up. I mean, you look at even people trying to put muscle on. It's like it took me 20 years to realize that my goal is to have optimal energy levels. Because if I have optimal energy levels, I can work the way I want to work. I can train the way I want to train. I'm going to walk around. I'm going to be feeling a specific way. So it wasn't as much about as aesthetics or even functionality. Functionality in a way is energy levels. But it definitely, my goals changed a little bit. And I can't tell you how many young trainees I see that are nailing that C4 an energy drink, and they're sitting there and they're taking more and more of it, and they think it's funny. They think it's a joke. Yeah, it's got 400 milligrams. No, I can I was talking to a guy the other day at a supplement store. He's like, nope, I can drink a C4 before bed, or I can drink a Jekyll and Hyde before bed. And I'm like, there's a problem there. Like, you don't realize, you think that's cute, you think that's funny. The fact that you do that, there is a problem there. And what's scary is no one has ever won the battle. Don't fuck with your heart. At a specific point, it gets real. When you see someone at 38 or 37 get opened up, or you see someone have a heart attack at a young age, or you see a guy at 50 years old lose his life, it becomes very real. And I'm just asking people out there, I think it's probably where we want to close this, is to do your research, gain an understanding. Don't listen to some dipshit in the gym who's telling you on his 1 year experience, like, give me a break. Like, go seek someone that's beyond qualified, because this is a decision that can change your life positively, but also negatively. We got deep there.
You can easily, research, and a big part of that is the conversion of testosterone to estrogen in guys that are on testosterone replacement is very cardioprotective. You do not want to suppress that. There's a lot of research now on blocking estrogen in men and what it does, the bone density on DEXA scans declining. Men need estrogen just as much as women do, because it does help with libido and fat storage and everything. It actually helps you become more insulin sensitive and lose the visceral body fat. So suppressing that and blocking that at very high levels of testosterone is, I think, where, from the bodybuilding community, that's where a lot of the cardiovascular events happened, is because of that. Cool. And there's a lot of doctors that will see estrogen flagged high on labs and say, oh, well, time to block it. And the guy has no symptoms.
Right.
And when we say symptoms, we say very, very sore nipples, water retention, moodiness. Like, okay, some guys need it, but you know what? You're not going to get gyno unless you're genetically predisposed to getting gyno. That's a genetic thing. You're not going to get it just from increasing estrogen and all of a sudden. You may gain body fat in that area, but there's a difference between gynecomastia and man boobs. So that's kind of like a tangent.
What is that difference, actually? Because I think that's kind of important, because that's actually a question that someone asked me prior to this was, if a buddy of mine's got man boobs, like, how does he get rid of them?
There's a gyno gene. Yeah. There's a researcher, Anthony J., who wrote a great book actually called Estrogeneration. Everyone should get it on Amazon, because it's literally, it's not that long, but it talks about all the estrogens, and that's where I got a lot of the stuff in the atrazine.
Are there any pictures? Like, I like big pictures and not a lot of words.
No, it's not a picture book, but he's super smart. He's actually at Mayo Clinic, but a very intelligent genetics researcher who he can say, like, all right, Don, you have the gyno gene, and he may or may not need surgery. But man boobs is just body fat, deposited there. So if somebody's over fat, then you'll see that. And a lot of guys start to get that when, they lose muscle mass, because either, they're not as optimal as they used to be. They stop working out, all of a sudden they shrink, and it's just like, everything's kind of drooping. But it's a real thing, and it's very misunderstood. And I've had this conversation with a few doctors actually locally. I'm like, have you done the research on the estrogen suppression in men and how it's, frowned upon? And they're like, wow, like, mind blown when they look into it and how it's actually helpful for men. Because if a guy is symptomatic, then you have to really adjust the testosterone dose. And that's why they go to more multiple doses a week, so that you don't get the spikes in estrogen. So you can deal with, crying at movies and maybe you're going to gain water anyway if you're on testosterone. It's not a reason to block the estrogen.
So crying in movies is okay.
Totally.
I do.
Thank God.
I mean, you have a 6-month-old, so you're likely.
Toy Story 3 wrecked me.
I don't know about you. I mean, I have a million other questions here. I mean, I think we're gonna have to do another segment.
I do. But yeah, I'm trying to kind of process everything. I'm not a little depressed from some of the things we spoke about. Like, basically everything's horrible. I'm gonna go breathe toxic air. I'm gonna go touch plastics.
I think I think the main takeaway from this is there's specific things we can control pretty easily.
Yeah. Plastics,
blue light. Having putting some sort of a governor on your phone or an alarm where you say after 6 p.m., boom, there are certain things that we can do that become, part of your lifestyle. Water filtration systems. Mm-hmm. Those are easy things there that are, minimal costs in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I think what Rally's saying is do those, because there's other things that we're just going to be like, listen, we live in New York City.
Yeah.
We're going to be exposed to the air here. We're in stressful environments. And last I checked, I still wake up at 4 a.m. 2 mornings a week. So those are things I just can't change. So I better make sure I'm not burning it at both ends. And I better make sure that those other factors have some control over them.
Yeah.
Was
It's very
I the
easy
only...
to go down a rabbit hole with a lot of this stuff, and
Right.
it seems ridiculous. But there's very easy things that are very acceptable.
Right.
You know,
I just
glass
did-
is acceptable. It's very socially acceptable. You know,
Yeah.
non-toxic skincare products like.
If you don't
Makeup.
mind, when we launch this post, a lot of our guests have been doing this. Could you go on when we launch it on Muscle and Fitness? Go answer some questions. Put an hour or two aside if you don't
sure.
mind, and people are going to start asking and challenging, and turn around and answer those questions. Pat Davidson did it for us the other day. Jeff Spencer's going to do it for us. That's something that we're almost asking all of our guests to do because they're getting access to some pretty incredible information that you're giving them, and it's even more incredible.
And a
if you
lot
can
of
find-
information. It's a
Yeah,
lot. I mean, it's a lot. There's a lot of questions that'll pop up, but I think the one thing we can all agree on is that if you get a rock hard boner in the morning, it's something to celebrate.
Absolutely, as a man or a woman.
Right, right, Don.
I love it. So do me a favor, if people are gonna want to reach out to you, what's your social handles?
Yeah, Instagram, it's the Ali Gilbert, ALI, because it's the only, apparently Ali G is patented everywhere. So Twitter is the same, the Ali Gilbert. And then my website is ali-gilbert.com.
Changing it to boners and biceps very soon.
Yes, to boners and biceps. So ALI-Gilbert.
Thank you.
All
Thank
the
you for
Uber guys
coming
think
on.
I'm
Will
a
you come
guy.
on again sometime, please?
Absolutely, yeah.
Cool, because we're
This
gonna
was
have
fun.
a million more
Oh
questions.
yeah, no, we're gonna take this up a notch. I thought today was perfect though. Episode number 7001 with Ali Gilbert. We hope everyone enjoyed our episode. You can follow Zach at Zraz. You didn't change that yet, did you? At Zraz is his Instagram handle. Mine is at Don Saladino. If you have any questions, please feel free to email us at reps@muscleandfitness.com. As always, guys, we're really enjoying this, and we're going to continue to bring phenomenal guests like Ali on. And until next time, thank you again.